I mean, it's interesting. And Kidney does have a shot to really break out this season. And I hope nothing more than for him to prove me wrong. But solid start, but still not a player I would have picked in the second round.
I think you and me, Sebastian, we've definitely talked at ends about Riley Kidney before, and we've talked about how we're sort of divisive on him as a pick and as a player. I think he has definite potential, but I think also Riley Kidney at this moment, in spite of playing really well in the QMJHL, will continue to point to the fact that there's so much more to a prospect than just the way he plays on the ice. And I think that contributed a lot to why Kidney was selected in the second round and why Joshua was selected in the fifth round.
Exactly.
Well, as we all know, Joshua had the reputation as a floater. He had a reputation as a guy who didn't have a great work ethic. He was taken first overall, but all of that stuff immediately just sent his value down quite a bit. Kidney was beneficial enough to have put up solid numbers and not have anything that really detracted from his game into the limelight as a potentially promising player.
And especially Kidney did very well in the playoffs. And GMs love nothing more than a player who steps up in big games. But at the same time, you're putting a lot of weight on I think he played 7 or 9 games in the playoffs. That's putting a lot of weight on a very small sample size there. So it's a very interesting player, and I really hope he plays well.
Me too. Same thing, exactly.
And the same can be said about Jake Evans, another guy who, had a small sample size, was amazing in the playoffs, and and gave us a lot as well. And Josh, you're a huge fan of what he's been putting up in the preseason so far. So that contract that I mentioned earlier is very well deserved.
Yeah, I think so. Totally. If he can keep this up, he's a 7th round pick from a few years ago that he's up until now, he's kind of been this prototypical 7th round pick where he's not that high skilled guy, but he's going to grind his way into your heart with his defensive play and everything.
Say that again. Grind your way into your heart.
Into your heart.
Wow.
Yeah. He's ground his way into my heart, at least.
I want a t-shirt that says that.
He definitely ground his way into Joe Bouchard's heart.
Oh,
yeah. One thing to
do. But this camp, he's shown a really offensive side of his game that I don't think's really come out at the NHL level yet. He made that amazing pass to, I think it was Harvey Pinard in the one preseason game. That was just mind-blowing. And he's been keeping it up all preseason. I don't know if it's the full season of being in the NHL that's brought his confidence up, or the playoffs, or the fact that this is the preseason. But if he could keep playing like this and put up more points than you would expect from a third line defensive guy, then that $1.7 million a year is going to be a huge steal for Montreal.
Totally. I agree with that. I mean, I think the main thing to point with Evans quickly is that he's always been a player who I found is that he's unassuming for the most part, and then every once in a while he'll make a play and he'll go, where the heck has this guy been? What is this guy's potential? How can this guy play like this? And it's the same issue that has had of Matthew Pekka. Now, what I'm hoping will happen is that they obviously don't trade him away for scraps like they did with Pekka, but I still think Evans has a lot more to show us regarding his NHL ability, and the preseason has been really good for that so far.
Yeah, and I think an interesting thing with preseason is that you see players get power play time that don't usually get power play time. And the 2 full games that have happened in the last week for the Habs were very different, both against Ottawa, but one was a 7-2 loss that was brutal to watch, and the other was a win, which was a lot more fun. But in the first of those 2 games, the loss, Jake Evans got power play time, and he looked good on the power play. Like in both of those games, the second power play unit, which again were very different in both games because we had a very different lineup in both games, but the second unit played very well in both games, and it's really nice to see because it also means that Alex Burrows is really getting through to the players on how to set up a unit and how to move the puck around, even when they're not like the superstar players. And it's just nice to see power plays of fringe NHL players or bottom of the lineup NHL players moving the puck around brilliantly. And Jake Evans was doing that in the first game. In the second game, Brendan Gallagher scored a power play goal, the first goal of the game. But the entire power play sequence going up to that was just the second unit dominating. So I believe it consisted of, I'm not sure if it was Weidman. May have been Weidman or Romanov, but then along with Lehkonen, Paling, and Belzil, and I believe Ylonen was the unit, and they were great. Like they were moving around. It was like a minute and 30 seconds of just quick passes, big opportunity. Ylonen missed like a wide open net because of just how great the passing was. It's just nice to see that the static power play that Habs fans have gotten used to in the past decade is not going to be the norm this season. And as much as the team will miss Shea Weber at even strength, I think his departure for the power play means that a lot of new creativity can come up in Ashley seeing how the power play works, because it's not always setting up the cannon from the point. It's a lot more about getting passes through the slot.
Just to put two little thoughts into Habs fans' heads right there. Opposite circles, Tyler Toffoli, Mike Hoffman. That's all I'm going to say.
And Cole Caulfield.
Oh yeah, it's going to be beautiful when everyone is healthy. And one last thing before we move, we have to move on, guys. RHB, our boy, is still sticking around right now, and he's been playing regular minutes on the third line. I don't know about you guys. Hot take, I think he's starting the year in the NHL.
That was my hot take. You stole my hot take. I literally wrote that into the chat.
Lukewarm take.
Okay, it's a lukewarm take.
It's a very lukewarm take. But okay, I made my version of the take hot because I said that he wouldn't play a single game in the AHL this season, which is very hot because I don't actually think it's happening. But like, we love RHP.
We love RHP.
It's so fun to watch. Like him and Jake Evans have phenomenal chemistry. Like we've seen this through a preseason and rookie camp. Like the two, it's not just the fact that they're both extremely hard workers. Like just in terms of like playmaking, of one passing to the other. Like Harvey Pinard had a great pass to send Jake Evans in on a half breakaway. It was almost a goal, but it was a beautiful little saucer pass on the rush. Like the two have a really great connection.
Sebastian, you're going to have a lot more to say because we're going to be switching seats for the next segment. You get to host because I have been attending the last game of the not the last game, the second to last game on Friday of the Blainville-Boisbriand Armada against the Olympiques de Gatineau. So how about we head over to Prospect Heroes right now?
The Prospect Heroes, Scott and Sebastian on Puck and Roll.
So, Patrick, I'm back in the host seat, just as I was last week. So this is a fun return to form in that way. So, okay, I know that you have a lot to say about this game because you were there, and also things that maybe weren't actually on the ice, but off ice things that happened at the game that you might want to comment on. But my first question to you is on a player of the home team, so of Blainville, that I've had my eye on for a couple years, and that would be Miguel Turini, who picked up a primary assist in that game. Did anything in his play really stand out, or was it more of an empty assist?
No, I don't think it was an empty assist at all. Like the entire game, Turini was literally really looking good quarterbacking, not just a power play, but the forward rush as well. This is a guy who is not afraid to go in danger zones, for lack of a better term. The puck handling was there, the speed was there, and I think one of the things that I really appreciated out of Turini's game is not only is he fearless, but he skates with his head up, which is something weird. You know, that it's strange just to say something like that, especially when you get to this level. But I saw a lot of players skate with their head down, doing a lot of revenge body checks, so to speak, which is something I absolutely despise in hockey, but whatever, call me old fashioned that way. I love like intelligent hits and everything, not just mindless hitting. But in his case, he was playing physical, he was playing a good game, and yeah, that assist was definitely warranted.
Okay, now that I can check that off my board, we can move on to what are your general thoughts on the game? Like, who stood out really positively? Who stood out maybe negatively that you were expecting to play very well? Tell me about the experience as a whole.
Well, the overall experience, first of all, it was my first time at that arena. at the and I had a blast as well, doing live tweets, social media, and it was I thought that was like kind of a cool edge as well. But for the game itself, what stood me out, there were a couple of players that stood me out on both teams. The first off, one of them was kind of a surprise, actually, and that is the captain of Blainville, Simon Lavigne, defenseman Simon Lavigne. He's not an amazing defenseman by all means. I mean, he's really tall. He's got the size, 6'3", 190 pounds or so. And but what stood me out the most is just his passion. It is the heart that he has on the back end. Imagine Brendan Gallagher as a defenseman, and that's something as a whole. Like the fact, like what was really cool is that you would see him shout very often. He dictates plays. He says, you go there across the ice. He's telling his goal. He's always communicating with his goaltender, which is a huge, huge plus for any defenseman, by the way. Is the communication with his goaltender. But I mean, he didn't really have a lot of power play minutes, if at all. He's mostly a defensive first-minded player. And I didn't have any timer with me or anything, but I mean, I don't think he's the one who actually had the most minutes out of all the defensemen, but his play was so smart every single time. It was just flawless and reminded me a lot of, if you want to look at an NHL level, but the same style as a Joel Edmondson almost. Not really flashy, always at the right spot, will hit when he has to, dictates the play really well. I mean, on that end, it was really good. The other player that stood out as well, and I think as a matter of fact, he got called up by his NHL team, as a matter of fact, because he's no longer on the roster, and maybe something happened in the last 24 hours that I didn't pick up. Was for Gatineau, goaltender Rémi Poirier, who's actually a product of the Dallas Stars. Reason why he stood out was this guy is so poised, it's ridiculous. I mean, yes, he was on the losing end of things, but I mean, like that second goal that he gave, it was kind of awkward because it was at the beginning of the period. There was a lot of water on the ice, and they'd be like the players are practically waterboarding, for crying out loud. And then when the puck came in, but this is a goaltender who, looking at him move around, his lateral movements were so smooth. He was always at the right place. Like when you see a goaltender taking in a lot of shots, like he doesn't tend to move because he's always at the right place. Now on the flip side, and I know Sebastian, you might be a little disappointed by everything, that Charles-Edouard Gravel, who was the goaltender for Blainville, was the complete opposite. He was rarely in the right spot. So he looked, all his saves looked spectacular, but that's because he was an inch too much to the left, 2 inches too much to the right. And those lateral movements were extremely sluggish. But back to Poirier, this is a guy that I know this is the juniors. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves, but an early look at this kid, I'm like, yeah, okay, this is someone who could at the very least have an AHL career, because he is very poised, and I'm expecting good things from him for sure.
And Poirier is still on the Gatineau roster, like on their official website. He's still listed there. So maybe he was like a day-to-day injury or something in between.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And okay, so I'm curious. So you told me a story about what was going on, not on the ice, but off the ice, because you weren't sitting in the regular stands now, were you?
I was not, no. Okay.
Actually, there are two stories here. Just tell us about what it was like being in the lodges.
Oh, right. There was the Uber Eats story as well.
Exactly. That was the second one I was thinking of.
Okay, so so full disclosure, I mean, it was the home opener, first of all, and of course, home openers are always very, very popular. A lot of media demands and everything, and also, I mean, it was so big that we were actually bumped from the Gatineau home opener on Saturday, but that's a situation where it's a brand new arena, a big party and everything. But we were invited to come back next Saturday, so we might have some goodies for you then. Now, yes, I was put into a lodge. I was, instead of being into the press box, I was put in the recruiter box. Now, which was a couple of boxes beside. Now, what was interesting about the recruiter box was